What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Talking Figures. As always, I am Tony. I've been coming at you with banger after banger after banger, and this one is no different. You know this gentleman as one half of the owner of our favorite online toy store, Hella Dope Toys. You can also catch him every Sunday, 9 p.m., over on his YouTube channel, Hella Dope Toys, where him and his cohort, Aaron Blackheart, discuss everything that's going on in the toy space on the Hella Dope Toys podcast. Please welcome to the show the gentleman and a scholar, the one and only Teddy Darklaw. What's up, bud? It's good to see you.
Good to be here, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, first and foremost, I'm glad that we the way we met each other was kind of unorthodox, where we kind of had this little secret plan to bamboozle people with a promo in wrestling style to come on. When you so graciously invited me onto your podcast, which I greatly appreciated, but I just loved how you orchestrated the way you wanted me to come onto your show. It was awesome, and it made me realize that you were a wrestling fan and you got it. So I was greatly appreciative of that. So before we even get started, I wanted to say thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah, no, it was one of the coolest things we did last year, and I was trying to add storylines to the show, and I had heard you on Lawrence's show, and
Yeah,
I was just listening and vibing, and I was like, I got to get this guy, and I'm like, he's probably the only person that would be willing to do something as absurd as this. So I appreciate you playing along with it.
no, dude, it was a blast, man. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the podcast every Sunday, 9 p.m. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, let's start off where I start off with everybody, and that is what got you into collecting, and when did you start, and what was the line that got you started into collecting?
Do you want the long version or the short version? So
I,
I can take you on a journey.
I got nothing but time, brother.
So as all of us, obviously had kids toys as a kid, growing up. When I moved out, my I left all my toys at my parents' house.
Hmm.
My mother gave me the ultimatum. She said, "Hey, come get your crap or I'm going to sell it." I was lazy. It's not that I didn't want it, but
Yeah.
I was lazy and I didn't believe her. Like I called her up, I'm like, "Yeah, she's just gonna start in her basement. It'll be fine." She did, in fact, sell all of my childhood toys. Breaks my heart to this day.
Jesus.
So by the time I'm an adult and I'm out on my own, I essentially have three things that are toy related. They were all gifts. One is my vintage Boglin, which I
Okay.
hold near and dear to my heart. And
Okay.
then I have two Jimi Hendrix figures from McFarlane from like way back in the early 2000s that Aaron had gifted me.
Right on.
I got married in 2003. I've been happily married for 22 years. My wife is not the same person now that she was back then. So when we got married, and I was like, "Yeah, I want to display this stuff," and she's like, "No, no. Our home is going to be pretty, cute, pink. None of this nerd nonsense that you have going on." She goes, "You can have a little shame corner over here, maybe, but that's it." So we had a child, and life was just a grind. You get up, you go to work, you take care of your kid. So instead of toys, like I kind of filled that hole with video games, open world sandbox type games, Grand Theft Auto and wrestling games and things like that. That kind of gave me that same feel of playing
Yeah.
with my toys, even though I didn't have any. Um, Converted her to wrestling in 2008. I don't want to get on a tangent with you about it, but there was there was nothing on TV. I convinced her to watch wrestling. Randy Orton had just returned. He had just formed a Legacy with Cody and Ted DiBiase Jr. It was a
Yeah.
great time to be a wrestling fan. I got her hooked, and that was the start of the change. So suddenly we have wrestling memorabilia in the home. Not necessarily toys yet, but 2013, I wanted to read a comic book. I hadn't read a comic book since the 90s. I
Okay.
was like, what's up with my buddy Spider Man? Turns out issue one of Superior Spider Man was about to drop the next day. I convinced my wife and my daughter to join me to our local comic book shop so I can find this. And suddenly my wife is hooked on things like Batman and Batgirl and
Wow.
Thor and all this stuff. She had a bigger stack than I did. Um, but I fell in love with the Superior Spider-Man comic line. It gets a lot of hate, but I loved it.
Okay.
I had been going through toy aisles periodically, throughout my marriage. I never saw anything that resonated with me from my childhood. I was like, what happened to toys these days? There's barely any action figures here. I was always super salty about it. And then
You're not
these
wrong.
these these Marvel Legends started dropping.
Okay.
Um, one of my wife's coworkers knew I was big into the Superior Spider-Man,
Yeah.
and he texted her while we were at Walmart. He was at the Target up the road. He said, "Hey, I just found a bunch of Spider-Man figures I think your husband would love." I left my daughter and my wife at Walmart, and I went to that Target, and I bought my first two Marvel Legends figures. This is officially the first one.
A
So
lot.
this is from the Green Goblin wave, but it did have the Superior Spider-Man in the line, which I did open. And boy, was that a shit figure.
Yeah.
But this was the gateway that brought me back into everything. I've never opened it. It's always just hung on the wall. I'm not an inbox guy, but
Yeah.
things stay in the box until they have a home.
Okay.
And I never found a home. I have definitive Spider-Mans now, but this is just more of a kind of a memory
That's
grail
exactly.
piece.
Yeah.
Like this is what did it.
That's exactly what it is, man. It's no more a toy. It's like the essentially the key that opened up the gate to get you
Yeah.
back into it. Essentially, that's the key right there. Listen, let me ask you this question: Do you know the exact moment your wife turned on wrestling, where she didn't like it, then all of a sudden turned? She was like, "Okay, this is good," because it happened. I saw it happen with my wife recently, and I just want to see if maybe it's similar.
So with her, there was nothing on. My wife loves television. She will just sit
Yeah,
there and watch TV. That's kind of like her escape. But there was nothing on. It was summer of 2008, so we didn't have like streaming or things like that.
yeah,
Uh, I told her, I said, "Here's a beer. Find a guy and just root for him. Whoever resonates with you, just cheer for him. Doesn't matter if they win or lose, and just take it for what it is." She fell in love with Edge and Jeff Hardy, who happened to be over on SmackDown, and that's what won her over. I don't know. She
okay. It's kind of what
and
happened with my wife too.
yeah,
I was doing the production for us. I was doing House of Glory, and she wanted to come help, and I was like, "All right." So she came down, and then this guy, he's big in like GCW and stuff. Like his name is Charles Mason,
okay,
and he was working, and she said like he's pretty good because he's all gimmick. Like he does a bunch of they put the screens up and he's doing all promos and stuff like that. I looked at her, I was like, "Oh, so you like storytellers, huh?" She goes, "Yeah." And I go, "All right, so we'll watch some stuff." So I started putting on some wrestling and I started like sitting down and I said, "Ask any question, I'll answer it however you want. Whether it's about moves, whatever, why they're doing what they're doing." And so she's sitting and she's going like this, and then Cody Rhodes comes out, and I starts asking a lot of questions about Cody. And I turn and I look at her and I go, "I so you like the baby faces?" I said, "Charles Mason's a bad guy. So you definitely like definitive." She likes to, oh yeah, he's a good guy, he's a bad guy. I was like, "You're definitely a mark." I was like, "All right, so let's just get into it." And then she fucking was it the most recent one? I was like, "Oh, you're in." Is Jacob Fatu came out and she's sitting there bopping her head and I'm looking at her and I'm like, "What's going on?" And she goes, "It's a pretty good song." Like, "Oh, now you're listening to wrestling themes." I was like, "You're in." I was like, "You're in, dude." I was like, "You're all in." Yeah, but I said to her, I was like, "If you like him, cheer for him. If you like him, that's what this is. You suspend your disbelief and just get lost
yeah.
in the imagery." And that's just every time I look over now, she's like singing the "Whoa" when Cody comes out. I was like, God, I was like, "You're all in now." It's great when you see like when you get a significant other into something and you
Yes.
see it catch, you see like the moment it catches, and you're like, "Fuck, it got you." Finally, now we don't have to pretend like you don't like it, or I have to pretend like, "Can I go watch wrestling?" And you sneak away. I guess that's how it first started with me, and now she's watching it, so I'm very happy.
So this may not sound good for my wife, but the thing that really cemented it was Edge pushing Vicky Guerrero in a wheelchair throughout backstage, just doing all these crazy things with her. And it was like this 10-minute long segment of
I
him
remember.
just running around. She's in a wheelchair screaming. And my wife was like, I like that guy. I like that guy a lot. And she was sold after that.
Dude, that's exactly look. Charles Mason's cutting a promo, and he's suffocating somebody with a bag.
Mhm.
That's when she turns, and goes, "I like this guy." So, I got a little nervous at first. I was like, Jesus Christ, lady. This is like a serial killer. I
You
was
start throwing away all the bags.
like, exactly. Like, I think we can get rid of all the plastic in the fucking house. But
Yeah.
yes, but like I said, it's the moment you just turn around and you go, ah, all right, there it is. There's the moment, and now it's starting to happen with other things too. I noticed, like with toys and shit.
Yeah.
Same thing happened with you. So it's great to see, like, when they start to kind of pick up on it with you, and they start to
Yeah.
take the journey with you, and you don't have to sit there. And the worst thing, and I'm assuming we all feel this, and I'm going to ask this my next question to you: when you went and got the toys at Target, was there any kind of when you went down those toy aisles? Did you ever feel like, oh God, I don't want to do this? Like, because a few times when I've had the first beginnings of collecting, like if I go back all those many years ago, I used to be like, ugh, I don't want to walk down that aisle. I feel weird. Or did you ever get those feelings?
I maybe if I did, it's so far gone because that toy aisle, that action figure aisle, and maybe you're lucky to get two of them, that's always where I felt like home. Like that's where
Yeah.
I could do my work, especially as a toy hunter. Like I'd pop in the AirPods, turn on some music. I'm like, we got to go find some stuff. Let's get to work. And
Yeah.
you hit store to store, and it honestly, like, I can't go to the grocery store for my wife and get something. I don't know where anything is. But man, I can find something in that toy aisle. Let me tell you. I'll
Yeah.
go anywhere. I will find that toy aisle and I will find what you need. You want me to go buy you salt? I don't know. It's going to take me 3 hours. I have no clue. It's where I feel comfortable. It's where I feel at home.
Every time we walk into those damn stores, it's the first thing we do now. I say, let's just go walk past it. And like I said, I remember all those years ago where it'd be almost like this weird stigma attached to it, where you just be like, I don't want to walk down that aisle and look like a weirdo. Um, but like eventually, like you just said, it kind of wears off completely. And that's
Yeah.
when you start walking down that aisle, I don't give a shit. I want this toy. I want to go down there and get this goddamn action figure.
Well, unless it's like a busy Saturday or a certain season, I don't ever really see a lot of kids
No,
in
never.
those aisles anymore anyway.
Yeah,
But I also pick and choose my times. Like I'll go a Tuesday at 10 a.m. when I know nobody's there, and
exactly. I
this is when I
started to
do
learn
my
that too.
work.
Because when you start to figure that out too, especially like one time I was doing something early and I was like, yeah, let me just drive past the store and check because it's early. I don't think anybody's gonna be there. And that's when I found that all the scalpers, all the hunters, that's
Mhm,
their day. That's their hour. Because I'm
mhm,
like, Jesus Christ, where all these fucking people come from? And God damn, I didn't at that moment. I guess DC was releasing one of those platinum figures at the time, so everybody was rushing to Target to look for that one particular DC figure. But I just remember seeing that was the first time I had actually seen hunters in their like natural environment, if you will. Like I walked in, and I was like, "What are all these people standing here for?" And they were just waiting to go into the store to look for this goddamn action figure. It was crazy. It was impressive. So you got into Marvel Legends.
mhm.
That was the one that did it. Is it strictly Marvel Legends, or did it from that? Oh, I want this now. Ooh, look at this. What was the second thing that started to kind of pique your interest, if there was?
So as I got more adult money, like 2017, 2018, when I was getting paid very well for my work, I got a little ignorant with it. Like I just started buying everything from like wrestling figures, Marvel Legends, but even kids stuff. Like there's I don't even remember what they're called. They're called like barf buddies or something. It's a shark. It looks like a street shark,
Okay,
but it like had some slime and it would throw up. There were little tiny tech bots that were in slime. I loaded up on those. I got a lot of the Leonard stuff. They had like a knockoff of Dino Riders. So it's like
okay,
they're generic 4-inch G.I. Joe figures, but they're on these sweet ass dinosaurs. Like,
yeah,
if I thought it looked cool, I was just
you were in.
going to town and having fun. I don't do that anymore. But yeah, at the time it was primarily Marvel Legends, like that was my bread and butter because this is before the He-Man had come out, before like NECA Turtles had even started. So I was just like anything that I thought would be fun to play with, I just grabbed it and
You just grabbed it
messed
up and
around.
gobbled it up.
Yeah.
Nice. Uh, so you would go buy the kids' toys too, huh? Because somebody else. I think it was Robert's Infinite Realms. I spoke to him last week, and what started him was the Adventure People.
Mhm.
the little tykes and stuff like that. And again, it's amazing to me how many of us there are, and it's always something different. A lot of them, a lot of the times, a lot of guys, they always tend to tell me the power of the force is really what it's like exploded them off into this journey. But for the most part, I love to hear what got you started and then what was the next thing, because to me it's always different, it's never the same. Somebody always says, oh yeah, it was this thing, and then something completely different. Always surprises me as to what we collect as toy collectors, because it's never ending. So with that being said, what what line surprised you? Because you're like, obviously we'll get to you having a toy store, obviously, but as a toy store owner, what line when you saw, you like, holy shit, I didn't expect this to become a toy line again, or I didn't expect them to bring this back from the dead?
Um, I think a lot of the NECA Turtles stuff surprised me the most. Like when those movie turtles dropped, uh, I didn't think that was real, and
Yeah, yeah.
I, I was so patient on waiting for them. I think I pre-ordered them from GameStop or something. Had to go and pick them up, and like it was one of the happiest days of my life getting all four of those turtles. And then like a year later, I got to experience it again when we got like Shredder, Splinter, and the Foot Soldiers. Um, uh, and then the animated stuff as well, because the Playmate stuff is fun, but those animated turtles were so spot on,
Yeah.
and they were really hard, really hard to get at the time. Like that was a fight to get your hands on those NECA turtles back then. But
Still kinda are.
yeah, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect Motu to come back either. I was happy it did, because like I'm Motu loaded up. I have my play sets behind me here on the ground. Um, I,
That
I
was the
went
one
all
that
in
got
on
me.
those first few waves.
Yeah, that was the one that got me, was He-Man. I could not believe, like, when I heard that they were bringing a cartoon back on Netflix, like a more adult cartoon by, the Kevin Smith one, I was like, "Alright." But I didn't think it would lead to a toy line, because I heard it was not for now, I mean, kids could watch it, but I didn't think it was made for children. 'Cause,
Yeah.
when you watch those cartoons, especially the first season where they stab He-Man through the chest, you're like, "Oh, this ain't for fucking children, this is for an adult." So for them to make the action figures, it just blew my mind, and especially to see, like, I know they're not without their problems. I'm a big proponent for the Masterverse figures because I love He-Man as well. Um,
Mhm.
but to see the detail, and like, I was so shocked to see, like, or to think, oh my god, this is like 2024, 2023, and I'm holding a He-Man figure, like brand new He-Man figure. It was one of the first times, like, you guys, like, must have been for you with the Ninja Turtles, where you were like, fuck yes, finally, like, you're bringing something that I back that I would love to buy. And that was that's the thing I always tell people, man. I don't understand why people complain sometimes, because it's like we're in an age where it's a toy now. Like whatever you want. I'm sure you feel like this way too, but like when I look around the room, it used to just be Marvel Legends, and now all of a sudden I see RoboCop, I see Death from Darksiders, and I see Cobra Commander. I said to somebody a couple weeks ago, I said, I have a Warhammer 40K figure. I'd never played the game. I've never read a single line of dialogue from any thing of it, but it looks so cool. And just to think now where we are, where it just starts out one Marvel Legend, because for me it was Wolverine, and for you it was Spider Man. To now look around and you see every damn near every fucking character you could honestly want as a child or an adult, whatever, and it's all here. Um, what it was what, when you started getting all these toys, is that what led to the store? What led to the store?
So the store, I guess we'll call it a happy accident.
Okay.
Um, I've always had like this entrepreneurial spirit within me.
Um,
Um, when I was young and growing up, uh, my parents took care of me, but if I wanted something, I'm like, hey, take me to Toys R Us. They're like, piss off, go make your own money.
yeah.
So you had to go out and learn how to make money. So I would do things like my parents had a nice printer for the 90s. I would make banners or flyers for people. I did a mobile Kool-Aid and lemonade stand. I had a bunch of little handheld arcades, those old Tiger ones. I set them up on my porch and charge the neighborhood kids 25 cents. I'd just be like a porch arcade. Come over here, play around, 25 cents. Um, I ran a bike shop on my back porch as a kid.
Hell yeah.
Chain popped off, I'll fix it. You want your seat changed? I gotcha. So we would do that. So anything to make money. And when I started reading the comics again, I used to be an artist,
Okay.
and I wanted to start a freelance illustrator business. But it turned out that working 10 hours a day and then coming home and drawing something just to have it sent back and be like, "Oh yeah, this is great, but I think I want to go a different route. Maybe we change it like this." I'm like, "I just spent 5 hours doing this for you, and now I got to start over? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?" So like, it burned me out on drawing so much I didn't ever want to draw again, and for the most part, I haven't. Um, but and then I just took some time and had some fun, and that's
Yeah.
where a lot of the toys came in. But there's I don't know, there's just always this calling in me that says, because I've always worked for these multi-billion dollar corporations, and I'm like, well, the highest I can ever be in this company is the president, and that sounds great and all, but like there's a cap to how high I can go.
Yeah.
They're showing me what I need to do this on a smaller scale. So it was always calling to me, but how it actually started was I was so obsessed with buying things. Um, I had limited funds,
Yeah.
so I would find them on clearance. I got so good at finding things on clearance. The Walmart app back in 2018, 2019, Amazon used to be great, man. You just filter low to high, and
Yeah.
every day something new would pop up. Boom, $5 Marvel Legends. Boom, 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 and that's how I got a mass majority of my collection, was just the Amazon and Walmart apps, just buying stuff for $5. I'd hit the clearance aisles, and then they dropped that HasLab Sentinel. And at that time, I had been saving for other things. I could not afford it.
Yeah.
So, but I was good at finding cheap figures.
Yeah.
So I would buy a Marvel Legends Loki for $5, and I would put it on Mercari or eBay for $10, $12,
Yeah.
not even at retail price. And sold, and I would just take the capital back and I would just load up online. I'd just be like, boom, boom, $5 Marvel Legends, let's go. And I was just flipping them, and that is how I funded my HasLab Sentinel. I just kept flipping it and flipping it and flipping it until I paid for it. And I stopped doing that, but that voice, it kept calling me again. It was like, hey, you were really good at that. Like, that was pretty impressive, you
Yeah.
know? Like, you got like a $350 figure from $5. Like,
Yeah. For real.
so for Christmas time, I started dabbling in it again, 2020. I was just
Okay.
like, oh, make some extra Christmas money. But the reviews I was getting were people like thanking me, people that didn't have a Target near them, didn't have a Walmart near them, or
Mm.
had never seen this figure. Moms, grandmas, like, oh yeah, my son was really looking forward to this Jay Uso figure. And I was like, really? Okay, that's cool. This is before Jay Uso was over.
Yeah.
Um,
They saw it coming apparently.
yeah, and I was like, well, I'm providing a service.
Very.
So I just kept it going. I was like, let's see how far we can take it.
Yeah.
I took it through 2021 and 2022, and that's kind of where Aaron and I teamed up. But
Oh, right on.
that's how it started. That's the fire that burns within me. Just
Yeah. That's
I don't
impressive
know.
that you at such a young age though were like, I'm gonna do this. And then the arcade, that mini arcade thing is brilliant. Like you just basically had a business going on in the front yard and in the backyard because you was fixing bikes in the back and
Yep.
having them play. You had like a waiting room. They could just play
Yeah.
out some arcades, 25 cents up front,
Yeah.
get bikes in the back. That's
Well,
impressive.
there was this massive arcade across the freeway, so you could see it from our complex, but those little kids couldn't get there,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah,
you can't just walk over there. So everybody always wanted to be at the arcade, and I was just like, well, hey, we make.
I
Yeah,
hear.
it's not like I was getting rich. I was making like $2, but back in the '90s, $2 was enough to go across the street, get myself a can of Coke and a candy bar, and I was chilling.
Facts, facts, man. I tell my wife that all the time. She's very much younger than me. I see, back in the '90s, you would get $1.50, and you'd be like, "Fuck, I can get a slice of pizza and a drink."
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like Jesus Christ, you know. And back then, it was. Hey, maybe you're like me. I hate to say this, but it's like one of those things where you kind of realize when you're getting older, when you say simpler times, when you start to
Yeah,
say that shit, you're like, yeah, simpler times back then. Those days when you can go outside and no cell phone and stay out all goddamn night, and your parents didn't come looking for you until you finally walk through the door 7 or 8
yeah.
hours later, man. I
That
miss
that's
that.
how it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was sounds terrible, but I was raised by the streets. My
damn.
mom said, you can't go out before 10 a.m. Can't knock on anybody's door before 10 a.m. That's a dick move. But after that, see you when I see you.
Fair game. Go out there and make
Yeah,
some money. Make something of yourself, essentially.
yeah.
Because at first it was the shoveling, because I'm from the city, New York City. So like when it would snow, in your mind, that's when the entrepreneur would kick in. You're like, ooh, okay. Let me grab my shovel out of the garage, shovel some front houses, and get some cash here. And instead of playing in the snow, like you would walk past house, you see kids playing in the snow, you're in your mind going, nah, man, I'm about to make this money. I'm about to make this paper. He's about to give me like at least 15 bucks. I can go get a whole pizza and whatever. I can run to the store. Because we had like a small I don't know what you would call it, but it has like everything. It's not just like a general store essentially, and it would have
Mhm.
action figures in there. And you would like I said, I would shovel and then I'd take that money right there and get whatever figure or whatever I could afford at the time. This is like when I first started understanding making money. When you start to
Yeah.
kind of that age where you're like, why I can have my own money and buy my own things. I don't have to ask my parents because I know you're going to say no. Because I was in the same boat. We weren't really well off. We got what we got. You just had to be happy with what you got. But that was one of those things, though, where I appreciate nowadays. I appreciate what I have because of those lessons that we were taught back then. Because I guess, understand the value of a dollar more than most people, especially nowadays. I will say that. Um, I'm gonna ask this but you already answered it. That's why I was kind of straying away from it. That's why I kind of asked you all these other new questions that popped into my popped into my head just now.
Oh, you're good.
Um, what is the Grail piece? Is it that Spider-Man or is it the other one that you said you still have from a child?
Yeah. So the boglin here. Let me. And everything always falls off. I should not keep things on top of this. So this is a boglin. These were essentially a puppet. I don't know if people are familiar with boglins. I talk about them all the time, but this is a puppet. This is from the 80s.
Yeah.
They were made by Mattel, real big. I had this as a child. Somebody stole it from me when I was in first grade. Broke my heart.
Yeah.
In 2001, Aaron's girlfriend at the time was actually nice enough, bought one for me off of eBay. Um, and yeah, it's been with me ever since. These were made by Tim Clark, and I've been thankful in my toy journey to meet Tim Clark. Had him on the show, met him in person, but he has signed this as well. So this is the most important piece that I have.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome, man. I think I remember those very vaguely from the 80s. I think because I was a big even now because I do a lot of voices and stuff because when
Hmm.
I was a kid, I always wanted to be a ventriloquist or like a voice guy. I was always
Yes.
that kind of stuff. It always kind of captured my imagination, especially Gremlins, especially around that time in the 80s. Like all those animatronics, Jim Henson was the king. Like you saw all those things back then. Um, so I was always into that shit. And I think I remember those very vaguely. And I think I remember wanting one of those things because I just loved the puppetry stuff. Because you could just be silly with things. My mother had this giant stuffed dog that was a puppet,
Hmm.
and I fucking played with that thing all the time. And she would always look at me and go, "Yeah, I think you're gonna do something with the voices," because I was always being silly, even as a kid. And then, like I said, I see toys like that, and I'm like, "Fuck, man, I remember that shit when I was a kid. I just wanted to just be."
I I do the exact same thing. I have puppets right over here. I got a lion and a little construction guy and a stack of new age boglins as well. But yeah,
Awesome.
no, it's in voices with them. Everyone has to have a unique voice. That is the rule.
Yeah, for real, man. You got to be now. That brings me to this next question. What was the genesis behind Moss Man? what, what 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 led you to create the Moss Man gimmick and commercials that we all come to know and love now?
It honestly, it was out of rage. So I wanted that Moss Man figure. I had hunted it down, and I know like eventually it was super easy to find. But in that very beginning, those first couple weeks, it was hard to track down. So I saw it, I grabbed it. I didn't even look at the price because I just assumed it
Yep.
was what it was.
Yeah.
Grabbed it, went to checkout, and it was $40 plus tax. And I was like, well, this can't be right. This
Yeah.
cannot be right. But I was already pot committed by this point. But
Yeah.
I was pissed about it. I was so mad. I threw it on the table. I didn't touch it forever. Um, before, well, I guess the prelude to Hella Dope, while I was still doing this alone, was I was trying to make it not only like toys, but multimedia as well and doing silly things. So I had been doing these skits, Skeletor dad jokes, where Skeletor would just tell a really bad joke. And when Aaron and I started the YouTube venture, I was like, well, maybe I should do something like that again. I started Adventures with Skeletor, and I was like, you know what? We're adding this Mossman figure because I was pissed off at it. I was looking at it, and on the box it said Master of Spying and I think Disguise, Master of Spying and Camouflage, Master of Spying and Disguise, something like that. And it made me laugh immediately because I was looking at his derpy face, and I was like, what if he was terrible at that?
Yeah.
Master of Spying and Disguise, and he is not. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the joke I went with for that first episode of Adventures with Skeletor, and I just had so much fun doing that Mossman voice that he actually became the star of the show, and that's all I ever hear about anymore is do more Mossman. Like,
Hey,
hey
buddy.
guys. um, but yeah, no, I just that derpy face. I kept looking at it, and I'm like, how would this guy talk?
Yeah.
Because and yeah, that was the joke of the first episode was he was sneaking into Snake Mountain, and he did a terrible job.
Oh, that's great,
So
dude. I just remember seeing it first time on Punk with Toys, and I laughed. I laughed so hard when he first played that commercial, and I'm like, I asked like multiple times in chat, like, who does that damn voice? It's so funny. And they were like at the Ted Darko. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, dude, we got to give that guy an award. That shit was funny, man. Because originally I thought it was Punk. I was like, Punk ain't doing this silly voice, is he? I was like, I couldn't tell. And then when they said it was you, and then I started watching the podcast, the Hella Dope podcast on Sundays. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, there it is. I could hear it. And then when you did it, I think you did it one time, and I was like, "Oh God, it's so fucking great, man." But every time I hear
well,
it, man, I always say to myself, I was like, I gotta ask him to do some stuff for me at some point or with me when I do my stuff, like my play motion shit. I gotta
yeah,
have drop in whether it's silly Moss Man or something else. At some point, you're gonna get a message from me about that. Of course, if you're interested, but I definitely want to. Because are you a voice guy? Is that the only one you do? Because you said you do Skeletor as well. How
yeah,
many other voices you got? Any?
yeah, I do. I do Skeletor. There is a Boglin crazy clown, so we did some commercials with him
Okay,
where he's got a rather unique voice. My puppet Beamer, all of them. I try to give them all their own unique
voice.
personality. I can't say I have a wide range or anything like that, but I've never been a fan of the way my own voice sounds. And I think that's always kind of part of the reason why. Well, one, that and I want to make myself laugh. So when
Yeah.
I'm doing a voice, I just want to make it as absurd as possible to make me laugh. But I just don't, I've never liked the way that I sound. So
Yeah.
doing something else kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, it felt like I had a permission to
Yeah.
be silly if I'm doing a different voice. I can say whatever I want.
I always say that too. But behind the guise of a puppet, anything can be said because of the silliness of a puppet. I will say this with birds of a feather in terms of the voice stuff because I my wife used to scream at me because I say I sound like a mongoloid. I still don't. I was like, why would you? She goes, I love your voice. She used to say, I love your accent, your voice, and I go, what? I sound like a fucking moron, And she's like, no, you don't. How dare you? And then so I was the same way. Like I like to do voices because I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice. So I always tried to
Mhm.
like let's sound a little different and do like so. Like that's what led me to Macho Man. I would always see or hear people where I'd be like, "Oh, that voice is crazy." I gotta try to do that. So because I again, like I said, I hate the way I sound when I do these talking figures. They go up. I watch the premiere with the people so I could talk to you and we can watch it together. I never watch it again because I just cannot hear myself speak. Like even the pre-roll. Sometimes I listen. We do the lives, um, And I'm like, I wrap them up and I go, how the fuck did people just sit there and listen to me? I sound like a moron. I don't get it. I don't get why we're our own worst critics.
Yeah, well, for the record, you do the best Macho Man I
Oh,
have
fuck.
ever heard. It is incredible, and as a lifelong Macho Man fan, I always love hearing it. It's like he's there again. So, uh, but that and I do like the way you talk. You're charming, and you have that soothing voice. Like when you were doing the pre rolls on Sunday, like I would get off my show, I would pop onto yours, and I would drift off to sleep. Listening to you.
Yeah, I
Like,
appreciate that. Man, I did a lot. I did that for a lot of people. I noticed because everybody would come on and they would say, "Hey, Ton, just gonna listen to this while I fall asleep," and I would always say, "Yeah, no problem, man. I will lull you to sleep in a nice little lullaby." Like
yeah.
I have no problem doing it, man. And that was one thing I'm glad we brought this up. When I went live and I found out that you guys were also live on Sundays, which by the way, you can catch the Hello Dope Toys podcast every Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Hello Dope Toys YouTube. Um, I felt like a pit in the bottom of my stomach because I was like, I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm deliberately doing stuff to like hurt somebody else's whether it's you know I know a lot of people say, well, everybody's streaming and we only have so many hours in the day, but I'm because coming from the pro wrestling world when I first got into this toy space, um and when it comes to pro wrestling, you don't do other people's shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't want to step on another worker's toes and shit like that. So like when I found out and I was like, nah, man, I can't. That's why I moved it back an hour. That was also why I wanted to watch and support you guys because I was like, I don't want to be that guy where people automatically assume that I kind of bull rushed in. I was like, get out of my way. It's my turn. So when I found out about that shit, and then this is when we go to this now at the beginning, a little full circle moment here, where you then messaged me after the Punk with Toys interview, and you were like, "Hey, man, come on the show. Like, let's do this cool little angle because you're from the wrestling world. Let's kind of shake things up here because we are kind of running at the same time. Let's kind of mix it up and let's have a little fun with it." And that to me was one of the things where I was like, "These guys, they're all right in my book." Like you were like one of those things where you came up to me like a worker, and like I said, I don't like to blow smoke up people's asses. Like I say this a lot on this goddamn show, but I will never forget that. Like that you didn't make an enemy. You didn't get angry. You went up, you hit me up, and you were like, "Hey man, come on the show. Let's have a little fun with this. Let's go back and forth. Let's have some fun. Let's not make this some dumb bullshit where you're on one end and I'm on the other, and we're on the other end." So, like for real, I said I thanked you at the beginning, and I'm gonna thank you again. Like, thank you for all of that because like I have a lot of social anxiety, so it's real bad. So like when I feel like I fucked up, and at that moment I was like, "Fuck!" So I forgot somebody came in the chat and you're like, "Yo, Hella Dope Toys is live too on Sundays," and I'm like, "What?" And it hurt my feelings. So I said it to you guys that day when I was on the show. I'm very very sorry I didn't know. And I will always say, and like when I have Aaron on this show at some point, I will say the same thing to him that I'm saying to you. I appreciate you guys. Now, I'm not on Sundays anymore. Obviously, I moved to Fridays now because of some life stuff. My father's dealing with some health issues, so I've become his personal caretaker. Um, but that moment where we had that little Sunday night war, it was to me, at least from the pre-roll standpoint, that whole live streaming shit was the most fun I had streaming up to date. Like nothing has been more fun than that little thing we did with you. Like I said, so graciously made let me cut a promo. It made me put me back in my wrestling days, basically. So it's one of those things where that's why I'm really so grateful to you because like I hadn't felt that way since being in pro wrestling. So like for you to give me that like that little gasoline that was left, it was one of those things. I was like, man, fucking thank you, dude. That was awesome.
No, I loved that episode, and as far as like thumbnails go, that was my favorite thumbnail to make. I was like, let's make an old school wrestling poster. And to this day, like I'm just like, I'm never topping that thumbnail. But I love it. But like, I mean, you shouldn't we never took any offense. Like, and we hear that we've heard that before, like Articulated Ninja had done the same thing.
Yeah.
And who am I to tell Ninja to piss off or get out of my spot? And he was like, "Whoops, my bad." And we were like, "No, dude, you do you. It's fine.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
not
exactly.
we're
Yeah.
not gonna give you crap about it. We did the same thing." because of, sheer ignorance. Like, we planted ourselves at 9 p.m. on Sunday night. That's when Geek Dad Life goes on. He
Yeah.
gets like 1.2K live viewers during his show every night. Um, so like we were just like, yeah, let's just go swing at the biggest guy we can find. But we didn't even think about that. And the fact that our little show that nobody really even watches, like, I mean, that's surprising. I would say the only people that us overlapping hurts is the people that want to watch both of
Both of
us.
us, okay, that makes sense.
Those are the people that pay the price. And I know there are some great fans of both of us that
Yeah.
would literally have us both on at the same time, which is crazy to me. I couldn't do that, but yeah, no, never took any offense. And if anything, like, we liked doing the TGIS, and now I honestly might need more YouTubers to be on Sunday, specifically before or after us, just so we can bring that back, because
Yeah.
Chad's taking a break, and you've moved over. I don't have any TGIS companions anymore. We
Yeah.
liked making a day of that.
Yeah. I
So
I would say that was my most fun. And like I said, even when we moved, because it was just recent we did it. Because like I said, the shit just kind of spurned off with my pops recently, and I just me and my wife were deciding, and I didn't want like I loved Sunday nights at 10. I did. I loved it because I felt like it was like you said, there was a lineup too, and I saw it forming. I was never aware of Geek Dad Life. See, because I was new to the toy space. So you guys, Ninja, 3POA, those are like the first ones that kind of popped up into my algorithm. Like I didn't really know about those the Geek Dad Life guys at all until like I started to hear about them because of the same thing. They're like, you these guys are live too, and then these guys are live. And I was like, I didn't fucking know. Um, but I never looked at it as like I would tell all the guys in my streams, like, I don't need to see like giant numbers because I'm so happy that the people that are coming are staying and are entertained. They're engaging in the jokes with me, and we're having a good time. And it's just one of those things where I would rather an intimate setting with the smaller number. I know like nobody wants the smaller numbers in the YouTube world. Everybody wants the biggest number they can get, right? But to me, I there was a small part of me that always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. It was a part because to me, stand-up comedy and pro wrestling, they go hand in hand. So like, and when I became more of a microphone promo guy, I felt like that was even more of a parallel to stand-up comedy. So when I do the pre-roll, to me, this it was like my stand-up. But what I would essentially, if I was writing out a stand-up routine, or if I was going to try jokes and shit, I use the pre-roll. I'm gonna just say this today, and let's try. Or I'm gonna try this voice, like I'm fucking around with the machine, and I hit the high pitch one, and I sounded just like Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks. And my wife goes, "Don't do that again." And then I just look at her and I go, "Well, now I have to." You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like one of those things where I'm just trying stuff because I just want to be silly. I want to be funny, and to see that many people stay around and feel like you're a stand-up comedian on stage with 30 people watching you, and they're laughing at your jokes, like you got them, and you feel good. So to me, like that was like you said, I feel bad about the because we have a lot of the same like watchers, viewers, and that was why I got the feeling in my stomach. I was like, fuck, I don't want to split people. I don't want people to feel
yeah,
like, wow, I watched these and I got, so I didn't want to do that. So I felt awful, you know what I'm saying? And it was only because, like I said, I know that we have mostly the same, because I would go in the chat room with you an hour before, and everybody that was in that room an hour or two later, like you would pop in, they'd all start popping in as soon as the show would end. And that's what I liked. I liked the flow. Like you would have Chad, then to you, then to me. Like I like
yep,
that very, very much, And then, like I said, so I was heartbroken that I had to break that up. And then when we went to Fridays at 11, by 11:45, my wife was passing out. Felix was sitting there going, "Buddy, I don't know how much longer we could do this." And that's when I said to them, I was like, "I think we're gonna try something different." And I hit up Shane from Same Time Toys because I said, "We'll start earlier instead of doing late. Let's just get it over with. Let's just do it and get it over, and then the night is ours." And they were like, "Okay." And I hit up Shane and I was like, "Would you mind if we kind of do a joint one? Because I don't want to go over you, because I know he does the thing on his channel." And he's like, "Absolutely, Tony, I would love to." I was like, "All right, cool." And we planned it out. And then he wants to switch to another day because of his job. So he says Friday at that time slot is open if you want it, Tony, because I'm not doing it no more. And I said, all right, cool. So he just made the announcement on the one that the first one we're gonna do. We didn't do it yet. We do it tomorrow, but it'll we're gonna announce it. But that I at that now from now on we'll be on at 6 p.m. on Fridays. So talking figures will now be an hour earlier. So I'm gonna air this now. That'll lead right into the pre-roll. So it'll be one of those things where it's like this talking figures, then the pre-roll, and
I
then
like that.
yeah. So I'm like, I was like, all right. So it has like a flow, essentially. Like, it's just like a Night with Legends series. I will say this about thumbnails, by the way. I'm glad you brought that up because your thumbnail with us was fantastic. And I
Thank
realized that plays a big part because I got some artwork from a gentleman who watches, might be both of us, Dan Alton. And I made that my thumbnail and I love it. But I noticed that it did affect the numbers because I don't think people know what it is. So when they see the big cartoon image, I don't think they realize that it's us still because they're used to the other thumbnails. So like, and those thumbnails that you do are very very good. Like they hook you, and that's what I realized. Like as funny as it may be to me, you got to have a good ass thumbnail, and that was one of my favorites as well. I still have that picture saved on my computer, by the way, because I absolutely loved
it. It was a beautiful one, and
it. Yeah,
you know the point of the thumbnails is more trying to catch that replay squad or
yeah,
like get
yeah,
newer people in. But it's so hard. And honestly, like the 3POA Ryan over there,
yeah,
Mr. Laserpants, does some of the best thumbnails I've ever seen. So I take a lot of inspiration from what they do.
yeah.
But a lot of times I'm just like, I don't know. We're
That's
just gonna
fun,
throw
dude.
up the logo and call it a day.
Brother, I'm the same way. Like, because I was like, all right, well, I love this, and then I noticed, and like you said, it's about the replays. And I think because it's this weird cartoon image, I don't think people kind of like, I don't want to watch that. So I have to like go back to the drawing board on that aspect because I really, and like you just said, 3POA does some more. And I noticed the funnier the thumbnail, the easier the hook.
Yeah.
Like that's why I noticed like Yojo Jerk does the heads on top of toys and stuff like that. That's his shtick, and it works because when you see, you're like, that's funny. Like Toy Gains on this head or whatever, and then you immediately hooked because the funny. As soon as I laugh, like that's what happens a lot with Laser Pants' thumbnails. I see them and I laugh, I giggle, and that's you got me. I'm gonna watch you because it's funny to me. So I'm starting to, like I said, we have another YouTube channel, the wrestling one, and it
Mhm.
great numbers, yeah, but that was from like pro wrestling matches. I have never actually put forth an actual like effort in terms of like doing like things with thumbnails and keywords. I never understood all any of this shit, dude. Like this first year doing the Legend series stuff as a hobby, and then going to like the live streaming stuff. It was like a lesson, like an insane lesson that I had to learn how to be a YouTuber. Because I mean, I don't know, and we'll bring this because you had a road that led you to YouTube as well, right?
Mhm.
When you started doing YouTube, did you have any of these problems as well? Do you still have any issues, or is it one of these things where you picked up on it now you kind of get it, and now you're happy with where you're at or where your growth is going?
So I'm gonna take you on another journey here, and again, I'll try to keep it brief. Um, as a child, I always wanted to do something television based. So when I was in high school, there was class. They did the school announcements televised, so it's like a news show. So I was in that my junior year and my senior year. My senior year, I had the opportunity to direct that show for the entire year. So I controlled everything, including my my classmates' grades, which was absurd to me. But then the school did a cable access show. I became the director for that. So now I'm controlling a television show. And then I also was one of the co-directors for the senior video. So I did learned all this editing stuff real young. And then with the cable access, we had cable access here in Columbus. So I wanted a show on there. And all you have to do is go sign up. So I signed up. I took their 6 week course, and suddenly I have a show that I made off of a camcorder, edited on a camcorder, sent on a VHS tape, playing at 11:30 p.m. on Sunday.
That's
And
great.
it was terrible, but I was so excited.
Yeah.
I went to school the next day. Some kid that I didn't even know said, I saw you on TV last night. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. He was the only person who ever said that to me. Um, so I always wanted to do television, but technology back in 2001, 2002, it just isn't the same as what it was now. We didn't have YouTube back then.
Yeah,
The webcams that we had sucked. And even if you did have a webcam, streaming on the internet was just awful,
yeah, it was
not a
horrible.
great experience. So I kind of felt like I missed my calling there when I got back into the toys. My Ted Darklaw channel, the one that I go in all the chats with and say hi to everybody with, that's not our Hella Dope channel. That is my personal channel. But I made a run at YouTube in 2018, 2019. You can still see some of those videos there, where I wasn't necessarily doing toy reviews, but I was just having fun with the toys that I had. So
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot about YouTube just doing that.
Was being okay.
Um, but the live streams was more of just getting the brand out there. But yeah, I don't our YouTube channel isn't where I want it to be. We've been doing this 2-ish years now on the live streams. We haven't hit 1,000 subscribers. I'm happy if 25 people show up to watch our show. I'm happy if the replay ends up with 300 views. Like that's a great episode for us.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can't say I'm a master or I've gotten it down, but I don't know, just something about recording, creating, putting something out there to entertain that's always kind of been in my essence, I
Your
think.
wheelhouse, right? I'm the same way, man. Because like I said, coming from pro wrestling, it was like the entertainer in me felt like he
Mhm.
had to get out. Like was when I got hurt in 2013 on a job, day job, taking an air conditioner out of a fucking window, of all things. And I found out that I had herniated discs in my neck. I still have them till this day. So they said to me, and I'll never forget this quote from the doctor: "Sir, you don't have John Cena money, so you can't recover." Because I had the same neck injury that John Cena had, so they had to do the same thing. They had to cut me open from the front, move the shit out. I had at that time they only saw two herniated discs. He fixed one, he left the other one for some reason, and now today I have four. So they all started to fucking deteriorate. So so I said to him then, I said, "Well, John Cena came back from this injury, can I?" And then he goes, "You don't have John Cena money. Like you're not gonna do all the rehabs and all the stuff that John Cena's doing to make sure he goes back to the WWE where he's a multimillionaire." So I was just like, "Well, I appreciate your honesty, but you got shitty
Yeah.
bedside manner, right?" So I whatever. So that led me to the production, but I had already been editing pro wrestling before because I had my own company and I didn't trust anybody with our footage because production companies, a lot, at least back then, even now, when they would film wrestling, they would take your footage. You're lucky you get it back. Forget it edited. You're lucky you even get the raw footage back. So I was very guarded that way in terms of when I ran my company. I did not want anybody to touch my footage. So it was one of those things where it's like, you're going to have to learn how to edit this shit so that now the deadlines and you can make sure the shit goes where it needs to go to. And that was when YouTube was in its infancy. Like it just kind of started and nobody knew what the fuck it was going to become. We just, oh, you can post videos on this thing now, 5-minute videos. Okay. Right. And you would post them part one, part two, part three matches in 5-minute increments, right? Until they finally gave you 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And then you're like, fucking finally, now I could just post the whole match itself, but like I didn't realize there was a science to this shit. Like I had no idea. And when we just started posting wrestling matches, I was just assuming that's all it was going to be. So it was just going to be for my wrestling company. And then the wrestling company went under, and then I couldn't wrestle no more. So it wasn't going to be my matches up there on YouTube. That's when I said, you know what? Me and a few guys, we sat around. They wanted to film wrestling. They wanted to kind of get into that kind of stuff, production and stuff like that. I was already an editor. I was just about to start film school. So I was just like, which was the biggest waste of money of my entire life, by the way. Uh, but I said to them, I said, if we're going to do this, then we need to do it correctly. We came up with the name False Finish Productions. Obviously, it's a wrestling term. And then off to the races. Like we started getting good. We started doing live production and shit like that. But like nothing caught even then. Like we were doing really good matches and shit like that, and I was getting cut off at the knees because they were telling me that I can't post that match Like buddy, I have. If I could tell you how many fucking great matches I have on a hard drive right now, that if I posted to this channel, the False Finish channel, easily cruise and get a gold plaque. Like I know I could because I have with Jacob Fatu as the House of Glory World Champion. You lost the belt to Matt Cardona. It was on their pay per view. We produced that show. I still have that match, just cut, ready to when I can post it because I feel like whenever you post that, and I'm sure you would know this, like when you post a WWE guy, the views, and that's what happened. We put a couple matches. They were women's matches. We go into the pandemic where everybody has to stay inside. And one afternoon, I'm sitting here, and my phone, because buddy, you don't think it's going to happen when it happens, right? So you're just sitting here, and I have notifications on, and my phone almost died because then it kept going off, and I looked down, and apparently one video got circulated and it went viral or whatever the fuck, and we grew. So to me, I felt that's a cop out. That's a cheap way to get it. Like people was, in the pandemic, they watched this shit because they had nothing else to do, and that's what got us all of this stuff. Like somebody said to me, "Oh, you should display that plaque." I don't want to because I feel like I didn't actually earn that shit. It was just a wrestling match we had put up. It'd be like if you just kind of posted some silly comedy shit that had nothing to do with you, and it took off. It's great that you see the numbers, and trust me, when you see the monetization, you're kind of impressed. But it's just like you don't feel the same success. Like, I'm assuming you would feel this way too, because you got a certain sense of directorial pride, where you want to see your project succeed, not some kind of rinky dink shit that you just threw up. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it was one of those things. Was like, I got to learn this, and I got to learn this the right way because I want to get the correct thing to that kind of viewership. You understand? Like, I want something that I created, like that was molded by me. Like I didn't create I didn't book the match. I didn't write the winner out. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't my wrestling company. It was somebody else's wrestling company. So to me, I felt like I got to learn this, and it was using in doing Legend series as a hobby because I just wanted to make friends. That's what this is, bud. Like talking to you now, I just feel like we're at a bar, just drinking a couple beers, just talking, shooting the breeze. So to me, doing this as a hobby made me respect the complete and utter like art form of YouTube in itself. Like everything in itself is a fucking art form. You got to learn how to work any system you get into, whether it's art, business, wrestling, sports, anything. You got to learn the art form correctly, and YouTube is an art form. And that's when I started to realize that the thumbnail catches them, the correct video catches them. You have to have keywords in the fucking YouTube description, and everything has to be hashtag now. I don't get it, but it's the way it's got to be, you know. And then, like I said, I'm starting to understand it now, and now I'm starting to apply it to both channels. Where this one, I don't give a fuck what this does. This is to me is like it's already accomplished its goal. If you were to measure success right now, me and you, this channel is successful to me. It doesn't have to have 100,000 subscribers because I have made enough friends now through this year and talking to all you guys. That was the point of the channel. So it already succeeded beyond what it was supposed to succeed. So to me, I am anything now at this point. You know that term you're playing with house money. That's where I am with this with Legend series. I'm just playing with house money at this point because it's all fun. It's just keeping me happy. And I assume, like, I know you want hella dope to the hella dope because it's really helping the business and everything. It's like one feeds the other essentially.
Hmm.
Um, what I've learned, and I'm sure you know this already, but the replays is what's going to get the subscribers. Like it's never the live views because they're already there. They're already subscribed to you. You know what I'm saying? So I noticed that when I did this live journey, the live streaming journey. I'm assuming you noticed it too. It doesn't get subscribers; it gets view counts.
Yeah, the live views are, I guess, mainly for ego.
Yeah,
But also, having more people in there helps other people stick around. Like nobody wants to go
I agree.
hang out in a live stream where there's just two people and only one person's talking. Like uh, it gets a little lonely in there, and then you kind of question the value. And it could be a show that's just starting. Like maybe it's their second episode, and you're like, "Hey, what's the value of me watching this?" But you go in something where there's like 600-700 people sitting in there, and then you're like, oh wow, this guy must have value. So like I like people being in there for that reason. I don't want people to leave, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Like the thumbnail and the title, and as long as YouTube knows where to shoot it to, because
Yeah,
that's what screws me up the most. Like YouTube will be like, well, hey, we put 2.3K impressions out there. But when you look at the videos that are referring us, it's not even toy related. So me trying to really hit that mark of, well, I want somebody to be able to watch their favorite toy channel and then boom, this video is recommended
yeah.
after that. But like we end up on like political stuff and it's so confusing. And I'm like, why? How many times do I have to write the word action figure in this for you to know this isn't a political video? Why are you feeding this to those people? But I don't know. It's
The one thing I learned,
you're learning, you know?
yeah,
You're
the one
learning.
thing I learned, and I this surprised me about it was the pre-recorded videos that I was putting up. You know, you usually just hit publish or whatever, premiere, right? And you think, oh, this is gonna because in your mind, you like, and I don't know, maybe you felt this way because now you're obviously an editor and a director. You direct the shit out of something, and you make something, and you're like, fuck, this thing is the best. People are gonna watch this because it's so good, right? And you put it up, and you didn't label it correctly or whatever the fuck it is, and it doesn't get to the out to the people it's supposed to get to. And you look at the numbers, you go, man, I busted my ass on this project. Like, what the fuck, man? And all it took, and I watched all these videos, and it floored me. And the only reason I say this to you is because I just applied this method 2 weeks ago, and it actually worked. And I was like, what the fuck? You're supposed to leave the videos unlisted for a minimum of 2 hours and then make them public because it gives YouTube the proper amount of time to put it where it's supposed to go in terms of the reach.
Really?
Yes. And I was just like, "There's no way that's fucking true." The same way that you just the same way that you just went, "Really?"
Yeah.
I said the same thing. I said, "Get the fuck out of here. That ain't real. This guy's a liar, right?" So I did it on the false finish one. So what I do is I do a live stream every Friday, right? And I clip out one part of it called Tony's Takes, and it's just a random take that I have about the business. And I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this some pre-recorded content. I said, I'm gonna try this method that this fucking guy said. So I did everything he said. Fancy thumbnail, fancy title, fancy description, right? Left it unlisted for 12 hours. I went and I did, we had a show this past Saturday. So I just went and I did that show. Now I've had three other Tony's takes before this. Okay. One got partially blocked because, like an idiot, I used WWE content. So that went out. The next two, minimal views. It was disgusting. I was very like upset about it, right? This one dwarfed all of them. As soon as I made it public, it went to exactly where the people that I needed it to go to, and they started engaging in it comment wise. And I was like, motherfucker, this guy was telling the truth. I was like, son of a bitch.
I'm impressed with your patience because man, once I have to do all this in one sitting. I'm not the type of guy that can record something today, edit it tomorrow, and then post it next week. Like, I'm getting up at 6 a.m. I am making this, whether it's a Mossman video or we're just doing something on the channel, and then I am editing it and I am posting it. I don't care if it doesn't go up till 10:30 p.m. And then everyone's like, you shouldn't have posted it so late. I don't care. It is going up. I am not waiting a second longer. It is done. It is out there. I don't have the making a video and having it ready. I just want to shove it out in the world.
You just want to
Waiting
show.
12 hours, I'll go crazy, man.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, and the other thing too, when I watched this video and I was like, he's fuck that can't be that can't be true. It can't be that simple. That to me is like the thought process behind it. And then when uploading the video, it says it on it. That's why they always started at unlisted. It says recommended you leave it at this for at least 2 hours so YouTube can make all the proper checks and put it where it needs to go in the algorithm. And that's
Mhm.
when I was like, huh. And I left it unlisted. Like I said, I was only supposed to do it for 2.5 hours, but we got stuck at this fucking show for 8 hours. It was a whole fucking thing. But so like by the end of it, I was like, all right, let me make this thing go live now because I'm fed up. But it actually worked. They said 2 to 24 hours. So if you leave it unlisted for 2 hours to up to 24 hours, they said the longer you leave it unlisted, the more it's gonna the more they're gonna basically set you up where it needs to go when you make it public, you know. And I was just like, okay, I was like, so that's what I'm going to start doing from now on, you know. And then one hand washes the other. So you then at the end you put your little clips. Go to this to watch the actual live stream. So now one you get the replays on the live stream, so they see the clip from the live stream. Or what is this guy saying? I like his takes. The end of the video takes you to the episode. Now you can watch it from the beginning if you like, and that now will count as a replay, I guess. You know, like
Huh.
there's an art form to this shit that I you start to learn when you start to really kind of pay attention.
Yeah, yeah. Throwing him back to the Moss Man thing, like, everybody's always like, "Hey, make more Moss Man." But one of the reasons why I don't invest a lot of time into it is because for everybody saying they love it, those views were minuscule. A lot of comments, so a lot of love there, but like YouTube didn't push it, and they all have like maybe 100 to 200 views for between the three videos.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yo, that took me 12 hours.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to do 12 hours for that. But, in retrospect, knowing what I know now, like the thumbnail sucks and the
Mhm.
title doesn't necessarily make sense. So just a random passerby doesn't even know what they're getting into with it. So I don't
Exactly.
know. I wonder if we took that down and changed that thumbnail, changed the title, and maybe tried it again. I wonder if that would have a different result.
I guarantee you it will. If you take it down, I don't know how many it has. You take it down, repost it, leave it unlisted for 4 hours. Don't even go long.
Mm,
Just go 4 hours. Make sure it has all the fancy shit, and see and just like I said, remember what the one number was when it was up the first time, and compare it to what you when you actually applied the YouTube science bullshit, and see what the difference is in the numbers, because it blew my mind, because I had been posting now for 4 weeks Tony's takes, and I'm like, and one was and I thought it was such a great take. It was about CM Punk, and I felt like this was the best run of his career, because I watched CM Punk all the way from the Indies, from ROH. So like I felt like this was his, and I really gave this amazing analysis about CM Punk. I thought I nailed it, right? But nobody fucking gave a shit. Nobody watched. But I noticed that the thumbnail wasn't that good, the title wasn't great, and I didn't really have a great description. This next one, the one that I did, it was another one. It was about Tony Khan being a shitty owner, about AEW not being good and why it wasn't good. And that was another one. I was like, let me apply this because I really want people to see this, because this was a good take. And son of a bitch, it worked. Like I said, it tripled all the other ones in numbers. It was very impressive, and it's still growing, because every time I check, is more the more views it has, and then every few days you get a good comment or two.
I'll run that experiment. I'll let you know
Yeah,
what my results are because
definitely.
I'm very curious about that now. If Mossman was more well received, I would probably do more Mossman.
But
So
brother, I guarantee you, if you do all that shit, he will get the recognition he so rightfully deserves. I promise you, man. Let me get back to toys real quick. Um, I asked this everybody in closing. This way, we just get back to shooting the breeze. Um, do you see a shelf life on the collecting, or is it going to be one of these things because of hella dope toys, because of now your podcasting? Do you see it going for the long haul until the wheels fall off?
um yeah, I don't have any plans of stopping. I'm certainly you know, unloading some things. I have well over a decade's worth of stuff. So I am, kind of cleaning house a little bit and trying to really focus on the things that I love. If you make the detolf, you're probably here for life.
Oh yeah,
Um, I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I guess I don't know when I'm done.
yeah,
Sometimes I wonder if I'm done. I have a Marvel Legends X-Men blue and gold team. I have all the NECA turtles.
yeah.
Um, you know, I'm very happy. I have Gremlins, the Street Fighter stuff. I'm very happy with what I have, and sometimes I just wonder, you know, maybe one day I'll be satisfied. But
I
we'll
know.
see.
Uh, uh,
They'll put that thing in front of me, and
yeah.
we'll find out.
A player knows when it's time to hang up his jersey. You know,
Yeah.
they know when it's time to walk away from the game. You know, and I'm the same way, man. Just when you think you're done, they release something that you fucks, and they hook you right back into it. You know, and it's a dangerous game. That being said, how do you feel? about the news that just dropped today about DC and Mattel going, DC going back to Mattel. Do you see eye?
Um, Look, I know it's not a popular opinion. I know there's people that love what McFarlane has done with the DC multiverse. I hate them.
Oh,
And
thank
I don't.
you. Me and you, same boat. Go ahead. Just let.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. And honestly, the way Hasbro is going right now, um, maybe Mattel will do something good with it now.
Mm,
I don't know where that leaves Todd. Maybe he just has more room to do statues and Spawn figures. I guess that was kind of what was bringing him to the dance, having that license. So I don't know. Time will tell. But if they're gonna make a good figure, I'm not gonna complain about it. You
hell no.
know,
Yeah.
and not 500 Batmans or Supermans or Jokerized versions of them. But at the same time, you can't complain about Todd's price, and some of the stuff did look amazing. But
Yeah.
7 inches and no, it's
Yeah.
not for me. Not for
No,
me.
I couldn't agree more. I'm very happy to see it. Somebody hit me up today and told me that the same guys that do the WWE figures are doing the DC. They're going to be on the DC line. Now I don't know how true that is. That was some uncredited source. So if that is the case, my biggest hope is that they scale it like they do the WWE guys. Where if somebody's short, they're going to be short. If somebody's tall, they're going to be tall. That is how it. That's how all action figure lines should be, in my personal
Mhm.
opinion. I know everybody has the, but even Marvel is doing it now. Like Wolverine is tiny, the Hulk is huge. That's how it should be. McFarlane always annoyed me because everybody's the same fucking size. Doesn't matter who the fuck you are. Like I think Tony's figures he showed me. He goes, "How is Wonder Woman taller than Superman?" It's like shit like that where you're just like, I don't. It's fucking. It was baffling to me his scaling and how he did his articulation. It never made sense to me. So I'm very happy to see this. I mean, I know it's 2026. They said that the figures are going to be probably dropping, but I'm happy to see. Uh, uh, I know they've had it before, but fresh
Yeah.
eyes on the product again to see what we're gonna get. I want proper 6-inch scale DC figures to fucking finally put with the Marvel Legends, man. That's all I
Yeah.
want in my whole life right now, and hopefully that's what we get.
Yeah, the last run wasn't great either. That's why people were so happy with Todd taking it. But no, yeah, I think if it's done right, it'll make a lot of collectors happy and could be a real game changer
Mm.
as we watch kind of Marvel Legends fizzle out a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
So or give them a run for their money and make them step their game up a little bit more. I don't know.
Were you like me and being a toy store owner when you saw them drop that Spider-Man Maximum Spider-Man and then a week later release an entire Spider-Man wave? Did you go the balls on these people? Because I was just like, holy shit, you got some arrogance.
Yeah, it's there's fatigue to it, you know? And again, it's one thing to do a Spider-Man themed wave, but when it's just Spider-Mans and it's honestly, people love those Spider-Man games on PlayStation. They're amazing games. I played the first one, phenomenal. I don't need figures from
No.
them. The game is based off of comics. I'm quite happy with the comic figures. Let's do those,
Yeah.
but at least put some variety in there, a palette cleanser.
Yeah.
But that's not what they did, and I think that was a fail on their end.
Any other line, any other I said to everybody, it's like they should have just done a comic book Captain America wave because of the movie. Just to, like you said, cleanse the palate. You
Mhm.
just hit everybody with a $55 Spider-Man figure. It upset a lot of the toy people. It upset a lot of us because of how overpriced it is. And I agree it is overpriced. But to then right after that, it went an entire it's entire wave. And like you said, and here's the funny thing about that. I love both of those games. I will tell you that right now. I played the shit out of those games. The replay value was fantastic. I bought one, the main one with the white Spider-Man logo. Didn't need the other ones. I don't give a fuck about the other. The only other one I would have bought, and of course they didn't make, is the Miles Morales variant costume where he has the light up helmet and the leather coat. I felt like if you was gonna make a couple of Miles Moraleses. I get the Puerto Rican Pride one because that's a great figure. Like I could buy that for my friend Felix because he's a Puerto Rican guy. That'd be a great figure to hit. You go, man, happy birthday, Merry Christmas, or whatever. Puerto Rican Pride, right? But like the other ones, why was that was a if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Please, if I am, let me know. One of the most popular costumes in the game was the one I told you with the light up helmet and the leather jacket. You give us the other ones, all these ones like you said, nobody gives a fuck, nobody wants like the Ghost Spider Man. And if I'm not mistaken, like some of them don't even have a butterfly joint.
Yes, that
Like
is correct.
you just shoved this beautiful. I mean, it was a great Spider-Man, overpriced, but great Spider-Man. It did all the articulation that we want from Spider-Man, and now you're basically like, well, that's sold out. Sorry, take these half-ass ones. Just like I blew my mind, dude. I couldn't believe it.
It's why I'm happy I have my definitive versions, you know?
Yeah.
I'm cool on Spider-Man's. So when they hit us over the head with that, I'm kind of just like, eh.
Fuck out of here,
And
right? I'm about to go and buy a Mafex Spider-Man at this point because I
yeah, and
don't have one. I need a definitive Spider-Man.
it puts me in a weird spot sometimes because um last week on our show, Aaron and I did crap all over that wave, but at the same time I'm also trying to sell it, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's weird where I'm always in this position where I feel like I need to show for everything. Like, oh no, everything I sell is absolutely amazing. And yes, I sell things that I love. Um, but sometimes I feel like I'm not allowed to speak out on those things. It's bad for business, and then
Yeah, yeah,
distributors look at you weird, and then but I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, hey, this sucks.
yeah. But here's the
This
one thing I'll
sucks.
tell you right now, bud. The fact that you guys voiced your honest opinions about things, to me, is what makes me want to go to your website and buy toys because I know that you're just as passionate about action figures as me. So to me, if I'm gonna spend my money on a toy, I'm gonna go to you because I know that you're just as passionate as I am, and you share your honest opinion. And it may affect business, but you're not gonna rest on your laurels, and you're gonna tell the truth on how you feel. And to me, that alone is worth going and buying and giving you guys some business. You know what I'm saying? That's why, like one day I think it was you was on Thursday with a friend, and you were
Mhm.
saying something, and I was just like, you know what, this file, I'd like the cut of this man's jib, and I went right over to Hella Dope, and I bought two things because it was just one, like I said, one of those things where I like realness. I like genuine people. I don't like bullshit artists. I come from a world of it. Pro wrestling, everybody bullshitting everybody. So to me, to come to this world, is it with it? Listen, it has some of its negatives. We all agree with that as bullshit goes on here. But for the most part, everybody who I've met, good people and real legit dudes. Like, so it's one of those things where it's like, you're an honest guy, man. So I know it sucks because it's going to hurt business, but don't ever shill because the honesty is what we respect the most.
Well, I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
I'm just like everybody else. I just want a better product. You
Yeah,
know?
that's all you can ask for, man. At the
Yeah.
end of the day,
Don't
we
kill
want,
the game.
yeah, and listen, I have high hopes for McFarlane, for the DC line going to Mattel. I listen, I still like Marvel Legends, and I know they're not without their problems. And I know, I think somebody told me that the next maximum figure is going to be the Hulk, and the big one is he's going to have butterfly joints so he can do the gamma clap. I need a definitive Hulk. It's one of those things where I don't want to like fuck you, but like I need a definitive Hulk, and not to mention then I can sell the two Hulks that I have. Now I don't need them.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I think a big chunk of plastic justifies the price a little bit more than
yeah.
a Spider-Man that we've gotten
Couple extra
several
bands.
times.
Oh, he has toe articulation now, by the way.
Man, man. Mine have toe articulation. I swear I had one with toe articulation.
I think they
Maybe
did
not.
the Scarlet Spider one from that retro card wave. I think he has toe articulation, if
Mm.
I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Does he have toe articulation?
This is the retro carded one. Well, this is the retro carded one from a few years ago, but so not this one. So this is like from 2018, 2019,
Yeah,
maybe something like that.
yeah, I think that's the one I have because he doesn't have much articulation. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, are you still keeping up with wrestling? Do you still watch it, or is it one of those things you kind of let fall to the wayside?
I jumped in on the moving to Netflix. I really wanted to be on board with the Triple H era,
Yeah,
and there's pieces of it that I like. There's storylines that I like, but man, the move to Netflix, I felt like it was just, oh hey, look who's here in the crowd,
mm,
and then I'm also just bombarded with just the longest commercial breaks, and I'm
yeah,
just like, bro, this is awful. So
right,
I feel like I only get this much wrestling, and then look who's in the crowd, commercial break, and I'm
right.
just, and a long entrance. So it's been harder for me to get back into it, but I try to keep up through the WWE YouTube clips and, you
Yeah, but
know,
that's the beautiful thing
re-
about all this stuff now is you don't have to watch the whole show to get caught up. Just
yeah.
watch a couple of clips on YouTube. I mean, I watch it only because we do the breakdown shows, so I gotta like
Mhm.
watch every fucking thing. And I will agree they do a little too many commercials, especially considering you're on Netflix. I mean, you can loosen the reins a little bit. I mean, Jesus Christ, how many ads do you need? And
Yeah.
it'd be one thing if every ad is a different commercial, but sometimes same fucking commercial twice. It's like I don't need to see this shit twice. We're on Netflix now. We're supposed to be getting rid of this now. Like I don't want
Yeah.
repeat commercials. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on. So I agree with that, but like SmackDown to me is where it's kind of like getting real. It's starting to get unwatch. It's like not watchable because it's 3 hours and it's way too fucking long. But I do like some of the stories. Not digging this whole fucking rock soul thing. I don't know why. I don't know why they turned rock into Shang Tsung.
Yeah.
That's odd to me. But so far so good. In my head, it could be a lot worse during the Triple H era.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat as you. I don't like the look who's in the crowd bullshit. I don't need that UFC style filming and that like NFL shit. I don't need you to show me, oh, like this celebrity likes WWE. I don't care. I used to like the days where you would see like Method Man in like the nosebleeds. I miss
Yeah.
those days where they weren't specifically put in a spot where they could just check this out, look at this guy, and then like now they do like breakdowns like sports. Really not into that aspect.
Who's the guy that calls everybody bro? Um,
Matt Riddle,
no, he used to work at WWE, started the
oh,
Attitude Era, took over WCW.
Vince Russo.
Yeah, Vince Russo. So he actually said one of the most smartest things that I think that a lot of wrestling is missing now. And, Bischoff has also said something similar where everything needs to become a cliffhanger page turner, right? So if
Yeah,
I'm going into commercial, you know, I need a reason for you to come back or else you're going to change the channel. So something big has to be happening where you're like, "Oh man, I need to go back and see that." And WCW did such a great job with this in the 90s of, the show would end and like, "Oh my god, Sting's coming down. Oh, we're out of time." Things like that and you're like, "No." And I just don't feel like they do that anymore. There's no page turners. There's nothing to sell me on going through this commercial break because
yeah.
I'm just kind of like, eh, eh.
I'm in the yeah. That I will agree with 100%. When I'm sitting there watching it, and it goes to commercial break, I almost feel like I said, like I'm watching a baseball game or like
Mhm.
an NFL game where you're just like, all right, I know the score, and you just want to change the channel. It's like, I know who's going to win, so you kind of don't want to like
Yeah.
finish watching it. It's one of those kind of feelings.
Yeah.
But in terms of coherent storytelling, it's better than what is on the other channels. I will
Oh
say,
yeah.
so it's like at least like all right, I'll sit here and watch this shit. Um, there's a little, there's a couple gimmicks that I don't get. I still to this day I don't understand Sean Spears. I don't want to fuck with the guy. I call him Mister Forgettable because
Yeah.
why is he still here? But anyway, I'm not gonna fucking get into that whole thing.
Cody.
Yeah, I don't want to bury wrestlers. Yeah, that's exactly why.
That's exactly why.
That's
It's Cody.
exactly why. Yes, true
Man's
word.
got some sway.
Yeah, damn sure it does nowadays. I mean, that's how you explain Ricky fucking Stark showing up right after he gets released.
Hey, I loved Ricky Stark's run in NWA.
Yeah,
Same thing with LA Knight when he was Eli Drake. Like those early NWA episodes that you could watch on YouTube before I think they put them all behind a paywall. some amazing stuff there. So I like Ricky Starks from that era, but I
Mm.
don't know, not wasn't impressed with the AEW stuff, but who
No,
was, right?
no, exactly. I mean, is WWE or NXT debut impressive? How they kind of surprise people. It's been a while since you kind of got one of those like oh shit moments from like a signing. So I was
Yeah.
happy to see how they were able to capitalize on that because a lot of times because of dirt sheets and everything that you already know weeks before these people show up. So to see that happen, I'm actually happy that they were able to bamboozle enough people to kind of surprise people. But I like you said, it's a little too much. It's a little too, some of the products is a little too long. The ads, it's too much. And like, to me, I'm more of the sports entertainment guy. I like the stories. I like the
Mhm.
silliness. I like the Undertaker shooting lightning bolts out of his hands. Call me old fashioned, but I like it. So when I see this, what the product is now, it's one of those things where you accept it for what it is because of the era we're in. But I will always be WWF, new generation mostly because I love the click. I love that era of Raw wrestling, even because WCW, even though it was silly with, with Hogan in the Dungeon of Doom bullshit, it was still, it's pro wrestling to me. So that was what it was. It was this campy silliness shit, and when it went to the Attitude Era, obviously, and I always tell people this: as good as the Attitude Era was, the wrestling was dog shit. It was
Mhm.
bad because those guys
Oh
just
yeah.
weren't athletes. They were drinking and partying most of the time. So, but the best era in pro wrestling is the ruthless aggression era. I mean, it's just best we could agree to that, right? That 2010,
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um honestly, I miss, and not completely, but when you look at WCW in the late 90s,
Yeah.
they had those 3-hour shows. They would have this undercard and it built up to a main event, but part of that undercard was those cruiserweights. So
Mm,
when I have Dean Malenko coming out and he's against Juventud Guerrera, one, I don't know who's going to win, and two, they're going to put a banger of a match on. Or Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit or William Regal. Like, you get a real technical show. And I think, yes, I love the storylines, but when you're talking about technical in-ring work, it doesn't feel like they're not telling a story that way in the ring as much anymore. At least
no,
that's my opinion. It's
and no,
just
technical ability is now replaced with athletic ability.
yes.
It happened now. Yeah. Because I was a big fan of William Regal. I was a big fan of Eddie, who was able to do both. WCW will always hold a special place in my heart because of what it did for that era of pro wrestling, where when it beat them 83 weeks, and it was like you said. But it's funny because we watch WCW with rose colored glasses a lot of the
Mhm.
times because we say, "Oh, it had this beautiful build up," and then you go watch back those WCW nitros, and you go, "Oh my goodness, I don't remember this part," because the rose colored glasses tend to block out Jerry Flynn. They block out Mike Enos. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You remember like the good parts. So as much as I love WCW, WCW definitely had its moments where you was like, what the who the fuck is this guy? They had a lot of enhancement talent.
Yes. Yes, that first hour was definitely full of it.
Yeah,
Full of it.
yeah. Because I remember even as a kid, I remember turning around to my brother and going, "How many times is Bill Goldberg going to beat Jerry Flynn?" Like, I mean, he's like 97-0, and I think he's fought Jerry Flynn 75 times. Yeah,
Yeah.
always Jerry Flynn on Monday Night Nitro. Um,
Yeah.
but listen, I credit those enhancement talent guys because you were getting on TV every single Monday, whether
Yeah.
whoever is against you, you're making money. They're paying you
Making that money.
because you're on television, man. That was like you said, it was the good old days of pro wrestling, man. We'll never get those again, and that's sad.
It is sad. I love the long-term storytelling of the current generation. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is nostalgia, and
Oh, it is.
maybe it was actually terrible, but I don't know. I remember being excited, and whenever it would end, you got to get on the phone, call your buddy. Did you just see what happened?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
and and I miss that.
it's a product of the champion. I know. I noticed. At least WWE. Like the Attitude Era was Austin. It was all brawling because that was
Mhm.
Austin's bread and butter. The new generation was Shawn and Brett, which was very good on technical wrestling and wrestling ability. That's what you remember. The Ruthless Aggression was Triple H's era, so it was about the big muscular, like what it was Big E always says, big meaty men slapping meat, essentially. You know what I'm saying? So it was like everything has the product of its champion. So I like now Cody. If you notice, Cody's like this skinnier, athletic guy. Everybody follows that kind of suit now. Like I was watching NXT, bro, and I don't know this fucking guy's name. If you my it escapes me. I didn't have my glasses on, and I thought it was Randy Orton.
Oh,
I mean, body type, hair, head shaved, same taped up hands. I had to grab my glass. I go, why is Randy Orton on NXT? And I put my glass. I go, that's not Randy. Who the fuck is this guy? Like I couldn't believe like what's happening now. Where, like I said, when I was coming up, guys copied Shawn. They copied Brett. You know, and you could see. And now I'm seeing they're copying John Cena. They're copying Randy Orton. They're copying Jeff Hardy and all those other guys. Because when I bring the names up, like Dean Malenko, for instance, people look at me like I got three heads. Like when I'm talking to young students, I'm like, you should watch. You should watch Dean Malenko. He's good. And they go, who's that? And I go, fucking hey, you don't know who Dean Malenko is, and you want to be a pro wrestler? I'm like, Jesus Christ, bud. I remember one time I said you should watch Jericho from WCW, and then one guy goes, what's that? I said, what? And they go, what's that? I don't know. I didn't watch WCW. And I go, Jesus Christ. I go, there's a whole era of Jericho before he wore trunks. You realize that, right? I have to tell people. I was like, before he was, in Jericho, he was a very credited cruiserweight wrestler and a very funny talent on WCW. Might have been one of the most entertaining parts of WCW in 1997 was Chris Jericho.
absolutely 100%.
Yeah,
And you go back and watch that, and man, that guy could move.
he was good. Yeah, he was
He
good.
was so good.
Yeah.
Miss it. Miss it so much.
Oh, but you know what? The beautiful thing is we can always go back and watch it on the cock. So it's always
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It's there. It's there. I could go back and watch it, I guess.
Teddy, I want to thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with me, buddy. I appreciate it. This has been a great talk, man. Thank you so much.
Well,
Come on.
thank you for having me. I'm honored. I'm honored to be part of the alumni now because you've had a great slew of guests. So, uh,
I wanted season 2 to be bigger than season 1. Season 1, I felt like I set the bar pretty high for myself in terms of asking a lot of the toy space people to come on and do it, and everybody who said yes, till this day shocks me. And now, even now, when I asked you and you said yes, I was like, oh man, thank you so much. And everybody before you for season 2 so far who's graciously come on. Like I said, this show always surpasses my expectations. Like when I came into this, I was very nervous. It always is that with every guest because I just don't know how we're gonna talk, how we're gonna mesh, and it always surpasses my expectations. I always feel like I legitimately come out with a friend after it, and I feel like that happened again today. So, like I said, thank you. You have a friend here for life. Like I tell all my guests, once we get through this, it's locked in stone for me. If you ever need anything, you can always call on me, buddy, and I am always here to help whatever you need. Like I said, thank you so much. I appreciate you. You guys do great things over on your channel. And
thank
I want you to know that from at least from this side of the fence, I love everything you guys do. You got a viewer and a subscriber here for life as well.
well, I appreciate it. When you're ready to come back to Sundays, we'll bring TGIS back together. You and Chad, we can complete the Voltron, right?
Well, we might have to like lions and shit. Just finally coming together to form one super robot. Listen, I'm keeping an eye on it still because, like I said, my dad is touch and go. So when like things can hopefully slide back into place, we will. But like I said, that was a great ride, man. I was so happy, like I said, to hang out with you and get to know you on your show. So to have this now, like you come on my show and we have a great talk again, like I said, just solidifies friendship to me. So thank you again. And you guys can see this wonderful human being every Sunday over on YouTube at Hella Dope Toys, the Hella Dope Toys podcast. Him and Aaron Blackheart, they talk all the stuff on their own website, helladopetoys.com, and everything else in the toy space. So everything you need to know, you can find out from these two fine gentlemen every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That has been Talking Figures, Season 2, Episode 5. That is one Ted Darklaw. I am Tony. And until next time, for the love of God, man, please keep on playing. Deuces.